Welcome, everyone. This is the Finance Committee meeting. It is Tuesday, October 10th, 2024. It is 6:30 p.m. I'd like to call the meeting to order with a Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands,
one
nation,
nation, God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah, Karen, it's October 8th.
October 8th. Did I say the wrong date?
Yeah.
Yes, I did. Thank you. Thank you. Correction. It is October 8th, 2024. Thank you very much. Under Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20F, this meeting is being recorded. This meeting is being held remotely in accordance with the Governor of Massachusetts' March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, GLC 30A, Section 20. And on March 29, 2023, Governor Healy signed a supplemental 2023 budget bill allowing for remote and hybrid meeting options for public bodies through March 31st, 2025. Well, thank you, everyone. Today is October 8th. Thank you. I just want to announce everybody who is online because we're required to do that. So we have Zach LeBrew so our Finance Committee members are Zach LeBrew, Hugh Morton, Al Lees, Gary Carrero, Michelle Orlando, Duncan Law, and myself, Karen Rouse, are currently in attendance right now. Absent is Christopher Thrasher, and absent currently is Cindy Brown, but she should be joining us shortly. So welcome, everyone. I wanted to start off tonight. Thank you. We have Steve Forbes, our town moderator, here. So I would like to start off with our first item on the agenda was to discuss with the town moderator regarding the Westport Finance Committee bylaws related to conflict of interest. So Steve, welcome. Thank you for coming. I can turn the floor over to you if you'd like or give an introduction. But I think everyone's familiar with the email that you sent us all last month in regards to a discussion of bylaw and conflict of interest. You, Steve.
I think we might have lost him for a minute.
I think we just lost him. Oh, he's coming back.
There he is.
Hey, Steve.
Sorry.
That's okay.
I clicked on the wrong X.
Well, thank you for coming.
Sure.
Steve, did you want to introduce our discussion on the Finance Committee bylaws?
Well, sure. I sent you all an email, I believe, just sharing with you my opinion that that membership on the Finance Committee, while simultaneously holding an elected office, kind of just presents a fundamental conflict of interest. And I think you could almost say, especially with the school committee, but really with any office of the executive branch, where the person's going to do a good job for the executive office that they hold, like to deal with the case in point, being on the school committee, they would advocate for the most funding they could for the school committee. Whereas your role of the Finance Committee is to look at the town as a whole. So it is my opinion that that's a conflict of interest. I would be curious to hear the opinions of others to see if they share my opinion or if they look at it differently, and if so, why?
Sure, I don't mind starting off. I've already expressed my opinion, but I do believe it is a conflict of interest, even though the state allows it, unless there's a bylaw specific in the town's city or town that prevents it. The state does not consider it a conflict. But I've been in the role of finance my entire career, which I'll tell you is more than 30 years. I've reported to finance committees. In every finance committee I've ever reported to, the charter of a finance committee is to be independent, both in perception and reality. So by having as Steve had mentioned, as being on any other committee of any other executive branch or holding an elected office, there's at least a perceived conflict of interest there. And, you know, I think it's important that the finance committee holds ourselves as independent, and when the group or individuals make decisions, we should be doing it on behalf of the town as a whole. And, you know, I don't want our reputation to be tarnished or to be perceived or thought that we're not being independent for whatever that is, whether it's this specific discussion that we're talking about that has risen to the topic. But, you know, as it relates to this conflict of interest, I called the state myself and I inquired to say, you know, if me as a member of the finance committee, could I also run for select board? And what if I got elected? And the state said, if your bylaw does not prevent that, you would be allowed to do that. And I don't think that's right. You know, I don't think a finance committee should also be on the select board, or I think we just need independence. So Steve, I support what you're talking about. So I will open it up to anybody else that may have their hand raised. Go ahead, Duncan.
Yeah, I just, you know, I've known Steve a long time. I know he's very facile with all of this stuff, but I thought it was really interesting that, Steve, you approached a number of other town moderators through your chat group, and that correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the feeling was that they all agreed with you. And so to me, that kind of kicks it over the line.
Thanks, Duncan. Hugh, go ahead.
Yeah, I really have nothing very much to add. Steve, I think Skata did it as well. We discussed this, I think, last meeting. I agree 100%. It is a conflict. A recusal of a vote is a step in the right direction, but that doesn't remove the participation in just in discussions, et cetera, and the presence, shall we say. So it's legal, so determined, but that doesn't mean that it's appropriate.
Great. Thank you, Hugh. Al, go ahead.
I echo the same thing. I mean, it there's legality and there's reality. The legality may be that it is not illegal or inappropriate from a legal standpoint, but the reality is, and you mentioned it, Karen, we have an obligation as a finance committee to be as crystal clear and as sanitized as we possibly can be. We all come in with our own biases in certain instances, but it just doesn't pass the moral smell test for me. And it's not, pardon me, it's not about Christopher. This is, it could be anybody for anything, for any reason. I just don't, I just think that he needs to recuse himself of one obligation or the other, and we need to be in a advisory box, if you will, that just doesn't, you know, the people in the town can look at us and say we're just doing our job independent of any particular you know, entity or whatnot. So anyway, I'm rambling, but I'm agreeing with everybody so far that this really has to come to a conclusion.
Great. Thank you, Al. Gary, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, so I you know, I've been on this committee for quite some time now. I think, I don't even know, 12 years. And we've had folks on this committee that have run for a particular office, have been successful, but then prior to that, even back down before from this committee, that knew that they were running for, like, the Board of Selectmen, for instance. So I think that I agree with always having to recuse yourself from a vote doesn't really lend the pure, as Al mentioned, you know, what we're charted, what we're you know, what we should be doing on this committee. If we feel that, if someone feels that they have to recuse themselves for the majority of votes, then it's not really an effective position to take when you're on this committee. But I know in the past, we've had members on this committee that have run for public office, executive, they won, they backed down and they went on their way. So, I think that that's something that should be considered, that it's pretty much past practice that we've had.
Mhm.
Great, thank you, Gary. Hugh, do you have your hand back up a second time? Oh, you're muted too. Hugh, you're muted. You're on mute.
Confusing me. There we go.
There we
Sorry,
go.
thank you. One of my old friends used to say, facts are important, but sometimes perceptions are more important. And if you are a member of both committees, then refusal is fine, but that does not remove the presence on two stools, as it were, and the perception that the person has an involvement, even though votes are not being taken. So that I'm just adding that to what everybody else is saying. It's the perceptions, maybe in terms of what it looks like, quite apart from what actually the participation may turn out to be.
Great, thank you. Oh, go ahead, Gary.
Yeah, so I guess having been at the last meeting, are we looking for some kind of guidance? Are we looking to take a vote? I mean, what are we looking to have this? What are we looking to do? I guess that's the question. To maybe enforce this, put a bylaw in place. I mean, I don't know.
Yep. So that's Steve, I'll let you go ahead, Steve. And you can answer that question too.
Well, yeah, I'll just speak to my interest in this. As I said in the email that I sent you all, I did consult with my online discussion group of moderators, just because it seemed an obvious conflict of interest to me, but I started thinking, am I missing something? Am I off base here? And so I got the confirmation from them that yes, they unanimously, and several of them thought it was an outrageous conflict of interest. And so I wanted to hear from all of you to again see if I'm not looking at this straight, if I'm not seeing it clearly. So I appreciate hearing that that all of you who have spoken are in agreement. So what I would propose to do is I would like to contact the selectmen, as the appointing authority for the finance committee. I would like to contact the selectmen and ask them to place an article on the warrant. And I will give them templates that I've got for, or samples from other towns that prevents members of the finance committee holding elected office simultaneously. And I hope and expect that they would be willing to put that on the warrant themselves. If they opted not to, it only takes a petition of 10 voters to put it there. And if they decline to do it at my request, then I would just do it myself. And so you have all fulfilled what I wanted out of this meeting. So I will stop talking.
Thank you. And I think when you speak to the select board, I think it's important that you shared this with the finance committee, and the finance committee itself seems to be in support of our own self-regulating. So I think that's an important step too, that sounds like the majority of the committee here that's spoken has supported. I haven't heard anyone that doesn't support it. But
yeah,
so,
good, and that's helpful for me to be able
yeah.
to say that to the selectmen when I
Yep.
communicate with them.
Al, you've got your hand up.
I do. Kind of a point of information. We're appointed, not elected, and so we serve at the will of whom?
No.
No. All right. Let's hear. That's my question.
Yeah, no. If I had the power to remove anyone from the finance committee, I would remove anyone who was elected to an executive position and declined to resign. But I do not have that power. You are all appointed for whatever term you were appointed for, and
Okay.
you remain on the committee until you resign or your term expires.
Fine. That's my question. That's the answer. So enough said.
Yeah.
Thank you. Go ahead, Hugh.
I'm sorry, Al, I should not have spoken, but I knew we'd had this discussion with Steve before and other times. I just can say, would a motion now be appropriate to ask for such a decision by the selectmen? If so, I'd like to offer it.
I think that motion would be appropriate. Anyone like to second the motion?
Second.
Thank you. So I think the motion is that the finance committee is in support. So I think that would be helpful for Steve to help with that. Does anyone have anything else they want to discuss on regarding this or have an alternative opinion? Go ahead, Zach.
Yeah, I would just say that I agree. You know, I've been on the finance committee for a couple of years. I probably joined around the same time that Christopher did. And I think he's been nothing but professional, punctual, and as he's been a member on the committee, he's been an asset to the team. But I also agree with the consensus of the group. So I think it should just be put on the record that for the time he's been here, we've definitely appreciated it. But in the bigger picture, in the long run of things, it doesn't make sense. So I just wanted to put that in, that he's been an asset and we appreciate his time. It's nothing personal against him. It just has more to do with the conflict of the town on the whole.
I would echo that, Zach. Thank you for saying that.
Yes.
It is not personal, it's procedural.
Right, exactly. And we did talk about that in the last meeting, but it is helpful to hear it again. So if somebody who might be listening didn't hear the last meeting, I think that is important. So, and again, Christopher is on the committee until his term is up or he chooses to resign. This bylaw would be in effect for anything in the future. So it doesn't impact any of us currently. It would be prospectively. Go ahead, Gary.
Yeah, I think when we discuss this, like even in this meeting here, we're careful not to say who it is, but it's not the person, but it's the concept. So
Correct.
this will be forever. So it's irregardless if it's Christopher or if it's one of us that maybe want to run or whatever for exec. I think we have to be careful that we don't mention names, but we mention the process. And for me, and I'll go back to it, it's basically the point that the person has to recuse themselves from numerous votes, and that's not effective. And whoever that person would be. You know, so that's the reason why I would vote in favor of it.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Gary. So we have a motion and second, if no other, Steve, did you have your hand?
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Only to thank Zach for saying something that I should have said myself right at the beginning before I said anything else. So thank you, Zach. I agree with that completely, that it is nothing personal or any reflection on anyone's performance on the committee, just the principle.
Thank you. That's why we have 9 terrific members that speak up to make sure all the points get taken. So thank you again for that. So if no other comments, I'll do a roll call for a vote. So Zach?
Zach LeBrew, aye.
Thank you. Hugh?
Hugh Morton, aye.
Al?
Al Lee's aye.
Gary?
Oh, you're on mute, Gary.
Yes.
Thank you. Michelle?
Michelle Orlando, aye.
Duncan?
Duncan Law, aye.
Let me see if Cindy's here yet. I'll say Karen Rouse, aye. Cindy is still not here, so that's unanimous for everyone that's here. So great, thank you. Thank you, Steve. Let us
Thank
know.
you all.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
All right, so let me just see. So Cindy has not arrived yet, so that's okay. Okay, so the next item on the agenda was to discuss our liaison assignments, and I didn't email them to everyone. My apologies. I kind of totally missed that there was even a meeting this week until Jess, our recording secretary, texted me urgently to remind me. But I think where it is, I think Duncan does not have any departments yet, because Duncan had come on late enough in the process and we'd already Cindy joined at 6:49 p.m. Thank you.
So
Is that right,
Karen-
Duncan?
Karen, that's not true.
Oh, that's not true.
No, I volunteered for it and was accepted by the infrastructure advisory group. And, I went through and you were copied on those emails to get my contact information and all that. So the minutes of the last meeting are incorrect.
Yep, no, so there's two different things. There's committees that we all participate in, and then there's liaison assignments for our departments that our town departments that are
Okay,
have budget responsibilities.
Then I'm mistaken. I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's all right. And just to describe what that is, so each of us takes a handful of departments, and we're the point person for the department if they have a question, or we'll look at their budget a little more closely with them. We help represent them if they're telling a story about their budget, and we help make sure their story gets told. So that's really our focus as a liaison, and we're the point person. So if somebody has questions, they can reach out through the liaison. So it's not a super heavy lift, but that's our role. So this way, each department knows they can contact somebody. So we don't have, and I apologize again, I didn't send out the list, and we can do this next month because we're not starting with the budgets, but some of us will have to give up a couple of assignments, so this way you can take a couple. But we can do that next month because there's not much going on with the need for liaisons at the moment. Unless somebody has something that they want to switch off at the moment now, we can certainly do that. But Al, go ahead.
I don't have any department that I necessarily want to switch off on. I do want to keep the fire department, but I will say that assessors and treasurer are very self-contained. They're very easy, and it may be a way to move into the liaison assignment if Duncan wants to take one or both. But I'm just offering it up. I'm perfectly happy where I am. I just wanted to make that a possibility.
Happy to take both.
But where did Karen go? There she is.
I clicked on the wrong button and closed it.
Yeah. You and Steve. Yeah. Can I click on the wrong button too and make the same excuse?
I was going to go on the Google Drive and find the liaison assignments, and I said,
No, that's okay. So to make it very, very brief, I'm very happy with my liaison assignments. I do want to keep the fire department, and I'm happy to keep the assessors and treasurer. But if Duncan's looking for something very low lifting, I mean, Theo, I mean, they do a great job, and it's very simple. But I could offer up one or both if necessary. But I'm not looking to offload.
Okay, sure. Zach, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that the current assignments that I have really help for my current workload. I'm open to switch or to change for the better of the team. And then I also wanted to point out that we have a new committee. Is that correct with the wind energy, if that wasn't mentioned at this meeting?
Well, there is a new committee, but the select board did not put a slot for the finance committee to be a liaison on that committee.
Okay, thank you.
Well, Karen, I'm happy to take both of Al's offerings there if that makes it easier.
Sure. Well, one other option to discuss is, which might be beneficial too. So the school department is a big budget, and what we tried last year was to have more than one liaison because it's such a big budget. So this way, and so myself and another member who has now left was no longer a liaison, and Christopher was a liaison to the school committee. So I'm not sure, since he's on the school committee, I'm not sure he would be a natural liaison, but I'm not sure he would be a liaison. So we probably should have somebody else that would join to be on the school committee, and I don't know if you'd be interested in that.
I would be very interested. I'm a substitute teacher there. I'm in the
Right.
school 2 days a week. So I have some appreciation for what's going on there, and I would love to do that.
Terrific. Then that might solve, that is a big heavy lift. So if you took a primary role in the school budget, I think that would more than occupy your liaison needs.
Yeah, it sounds,
that'd be great.
I'm pretty sure it would.
Yeah, it definitely would. Okay, so then we don't have to do a major jiggle. Okay, all right, terrific. Thank you, Duncan. All right, so speaking of that, so we do.
Karen, you has his hand up.
Oh, sorry. Thank you so much. Hugh, go ahead. Hi, Cindy.
I really don't know. I just want to chime in with what somebody had said a minute ago. Forget me.
So thank you. So on that topic, a little bit out of order is our meeting schedule and our budget. So it's almost budget season, and we are in the same kind of time frame. And I think I forwarded to you, the town administrator had put forth the budget timeline that he presented to the select board, which is similar to what was last year, where a mid-December, the town administrator would have his first roll-up of the budget. And then certainly by February 20th, by town bylaw, the select board needs to approve the budget and send it over to the finance committee. So what we had done in the last few years was to schedule our department meetings with the finance committee and get them all scheduled in advance, and then get all the departments to sign up for some dates in advance. We had done maybe one date in December and then proceeded in January to do 4 Tuesdays in a row to really kind of get that out of the way. And then the first Tuesday in February, we reserved for the school committee. So to give them, the school department, to give them the latest opportunity for the budget. So just want to check in. Does that timing still work with everybody?
Mhm.
Yeah, I think it's worked in the past. I don't
Yep. Okay.
see why we shouldn't continue. I think it worked well. It's always nice to be done early in the season, just in case anything comes up. You know, last year's warrant did not have too many financially, too many articles that had a financial impact, but you never know, this year if there are some. So sometimes that takes a little bit more of our time come March. So it's good to get those budgets out of the way.
Okay, terrific. Go ahead, Al.
Yeah, pardon me. One thing that we had briefly mentioned at the last meeting, and I want to continue not the discussion, but just put it in everybody's mind, that part of the finance committee's role, if you will, is also to analyze and look at projects that may come before the taxpayer of the town. Two that come to mind are the school, of course, and the other one is the infrastructure, and do an analysis, not just look at the project, the discrete project in and of itself, but also the impact to the taxpayer long term. And I don't need to go into the details. I mean, I think we all know the details at this point of what a sewer and water may do, what the state may do, and what financial impact it may have for infrastructure, for schools, et cetera, et cetera. So I want to keep that on the table. I'm not saying it needs to be there, a big discussion tonight, but it really is an important point, as far as I'm concerned, for the townspeople to know that the finance committee is looking at a larger and a bigger picture than just simply that discrete little whatever, not little, but that discrete whatever it might be. So that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you. And that's a great point, and I support that. And I think part of what I like to do with the budget is let's get the budget through as efficiently and as quickly as we can. Then that opens up our space that if something does come up, we have the opportunity to be able to have those conversations rather than being right in the 11th hour against the deadline, still having to budget meetings, and we have
Right.
no space to talk about anything. So I
Exactly.
think that dovetails in perfectly, Al. Okay, so I'll go ahead and put a schedule together and I can send that out. And I can do the same thing that I did last year. I'll email the dates, and then if you all double check them. And then what I did last year was send out a Google calendar invite to ask each of the department heads to select their dates. So this way they can select what date works for them the best. So I can do that in the next month. Thank you. All right. So back a little to our agenda. The next item would be committee and liaison updates. Does anyone have any meetings going on? Anything happening?
We have an audit committee meeting scheduled for the end of October. So our next meeting in November, I'll be able to report back on that. I would think at some point there'll be a long-term building committee meeting again sometime, but I have not heard anything from the chairperson of that committee as to when we'll have another meeting.
Because I think the last update was that there was an RFP going out, right?
Right.
Right. And is the RFP still?
Yeah, and so I think that the RFP isn't due back maybe until end of October, maybe first part of November, because it's rather extensive. And I don't think that the work was going to be completed until, I don't think the work completion date perhaps was post town meeting.
Right. That's what we did discuss. So we should not be seeing an article on the on the annual town meeting anyway.
Hopefully not for this year, unless it's for money for major repairs to just keep the building upright. But
right.
we'll see what happens with that.
Right. Terrific. Thank you. Has there been any infrastructure committee meetings that have taken place over the summer or at all? Because Duncan, you're now officially on it, right?
Yeah, I have not heard another thing since providing my contact info.
Okay. All right. So it sounds like no other meetings of interest. Okay.
And I'm sorry, Karen, I would just say
sure.
similarly that I'm on the capital improvement and I haven't heard of any current meetings yet. So I'm ready, willing, and able. I just haven't heard had anybody get in touch with me.
Yeah, that will probably start, Al, and I think that starts in December.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Hugh, go ahead.
Yeah, there's nothing important. I just want to mention CPC that our next meeting is in November. We don't have one this month because there's nothing to deal with. But the way the process works is that people come, offer possibilities, which the committee reviews as to whether we are going to take a position on it or want to know further. And it all ends up with recommendations to town meeting. This is the initial part of the process, and it's a fixed schedule, if you will, of having material ready for town meeting, but then we'll make its decision on our recommendations. We're now in the preliminary phase. In November, we will get some things that people come with, and we'll see where it goes from there.
Great. Thank you, Hugh. If nothing else, I'll move on to the next topic, which would be to approve the minutes of September 10th, 2024.
So moved.
Thank you. Any second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion on those minutes?
No.
No. Okay, now we'll do a roll call there. Duncan,
Duncan Law, aye.
Michelle,
Michelle Orlando, I.
Al,
Al Lee's eye.
Zach,
Zach LeBrew, aye.
Hugh,
Hugh Morton, aye.
Cindy,
Cindy Brown, aye.
Gary,
Abstain.
thank you. And Karen Rouse, aye. Thank you. Okay, so agenda. I have no topics that came up within 48 hours in advance of the meeting. I have no correspondence. Does anyone have any topics for our next meeting that they'd like to add to the agenda? At this
Karen, I
moment?
don't have a topic. I do have a follow-up question though, from what you said
Sure.
before, because I was gonna bring it up, but I think it was Zach that stole my thunder. Regarding that the wind offshore wind committee, is there a reason why the select board didn't take anybody from or didn't make a spot for finance, or where that's at? I didn't notice it on their agenda last week. So
It
I
was
I
on
gonna
their
bring it up.
agenda. It was the previous meeting. So they were met as a group to come up with a charter or what the committee was expected to do. And the way I listened to the committee, they wanted to limit it to 9 members because when committees get too big, they get unwieldy. And I think they really wanted some members of the general public on the committee. So I think by process of trying to whittle away spots, they eliminated finance committee position.
Well,
what
I
did-
also think, I also think that they didn't feel that there was any near-term financial impact to the town, that there wasn't anything that was going to necessarily require an appropriation from the town in the near term. That may change, but there wasn't anything imminent. This was really more of an impact issue, environmentally, more than it is financially.
Right. No, understood. I just, you want to make sure that.
Yeah, I will
There's
only say that
input
they did leave a seat for the Economic Development Committee on it, which seems counter to if there's no financial impact, then there isn't. So to select Economic Development as a seat and not Finance Committee, but that is what it is.
Right.
But if somebody here feels as though Finance Committee should be represented, we can certainly make our comments known to the select board.
I guess my only thought there is, and there's been a lot of chatter, online and in papers and all of that written up about it. So I would just want to make sure that we're just on top of whatever it is that's going on. You've read so much that a lot of things happen that you don't even know that are happening, and you don't find out till after the fact. So you just want to make sure that, everyone is aware of what's happening and all of that. So, good to know that there's 1 or 2 or more seats from the general public. That's good to know. So.
And you're
And
right.
again,
I mean,
I guess
that makes that a little more of a challenge, right? So if a finance committee is not on the committee, that's that responsibility to come back to go, hey, there's some things of interest that we should be looking at.
Right.
It would be
Right.
then up to us to be watching the committees on our own. And I don't know, I've got enough.
Right. And
You
maybe
know.
is there an assignment there for somebody to just kind of be responsible for watching the meetings, pay attention as to what's going on, not necessarily a part of the meeting, but a liaison or whatever it may be. Just want to be mindful of that, I guess,
Right.
as it,
Nope,
as it
appreciate that.
continues to evolve.
Right. Go ahead, Al. Thank you, Michelle.
Well, I think what you said earlier is exactly right. Even though I don't know this specifically, that there doesn't seem to be, in the minds of the select board, any current economic issues and so on and so forth. But I would also flip it around and say I think that's one of the reasons that the town many times gets into trouble, because they're not proactive enough, and they, we wait till the last minute and then say, holy blank, where did this come from? So I believe that at a minimum, to Michelle's point, we should at a minimum have a finance committee or a member or a couple, whatever it might be, monitor what's going on if they don't want to give us a seat at the table, or at a maximum say we need a seat at the table because, you know,
Who knows?
yeah. So anyway, I just wanted to bring that point up, but I think this down the road could be a long-term issue. And if we jump on it as a finance committee too late, we could be behind the 8 ball.
Right. It goes hand in hand to what you just said about staying on top of other issues that have come up in the past. Not, doesn't have to be on the forefront, but being mindful of it, that they're kind of still going on, being aware, being part of it, and all that kind of thing. So, because it's been on my mind since it came up. So
No, it's a good point, Michelle. It really was. It's. I think we do need to address it in some fashion.
Thank you. Duncan, go ahead.
Yeah, I just echo what they're saying, what Al and Michelle said, but we shouldn't be backing away from this. I mean, they're talking about bringing a big wire ashore at Horseneck and running it up Route 88 and then running it across our town. So I would be way in front of this, not a little bit in front of it, way in front of it.
Yep.
Well, if the committee would like, I can certainly, the finance committee could send the letter to the select board and ask them to reconsider adding a seat to the committee for a finance committee representative, if that's what we'd like to do.
I would like to make that motion.
I would like to second that motion.
Any further discussion on that? Nope. I will do a roll call and then we will can get a letter drafted. Duncan?
Duncan Law, aye.
Thank you. Michelle? Al?
Please, aye.
Zach?
Zach LeBrew, aye.
Hugh?
Hugh Morton, aye.
Cindy?
Cindy Brown, aye.
Gary?
Yes.
Thank you. And Karen, yes, as well. Would you like me to draft the letter and send a draft to you to review before I send it out?
Good
Yes,
idea.
ma'am.
I'm comfortable with your draft.
Yeah, I think you can draft the letter.
Okay. All right.
And thank you, Karen, for taking on that.
Okay, sure thing. I will do that. All right. Thank you, Michelle, for bringing that up.
Thank
That was
you.
a very, very good.
Yeah,
point.
no, that was good.
Yeah, very good point. Anything else? Because I have nothing else on the agenda. And does anyone have anything else they want to add?
No, I have nothing to add. But I do, and it has nothing really to do with finance committee. But I know we're being recorded and people will listen to it. I want to give a shout out to the highway department. I think they and their the crew that they hired to do the paving on Main Road has done a fabulous job. I mean, a little bit of confusion, but you're always going to have that confusion. But the quality of the work looks great. The cops and the direction of traffic in and out, whatever it might be. I just wanted to publicly say that I think money well spent, even though it was the Chapter 90 money or whatever it is, it's still, it was a good job, or it is a good job. So that's all I wanted to say.
Great.
Not
Thank
over
you.
yet.
Thank you very much for that. I don't think I've seen it, but I'll have to go look. now.
Cindy and I do every day.
I apologize for being 15, 20 minutes late. Is there something I should go back and listen to the recording to? Did I miss anything the first 15 minutes?
Were you here? Did you hear when Steve Forrest was on?
No, so I'll go back
No.
then and listen
Yeah.
to
Yeah,
that.
you better
Okay.
listen to that.
Yeah,
Okay.
terrific. All right, if nothing else, a motion to adjourn.
So
Go
Motion.
So move.
All right, I will do a roll call. Duncan?
Duncan Law, aye.
Michelle?
Michelle Orlando, aye.
Al?
Lee's aye.
Zach?
Zach LeBrew, aye.
Hugh?
Hugh Morton, aye.
Cindy?
Cindy Brown, aye.
Gary?
Yes.
And Karen Rouse, aye. Thank you very much.